Welcome back. It's that most wonderful time of the year when we go through a few gift ideas for makers. That's coming up next. So yes, we're getting towards that time of year where gifts are traditionally given and indeed received. I do one of these videos every year just to throw out a few ideas for mostly pocket money, stocking stuffer kind of presents. These videos aren't sponsored in any way, but if you do use one of the Amazon links that are all listed down in the video description below, the channel does receive a little bit of income back from that because those are mostly affiliate links, and it's a way for you to support the channel at no additional cost to yourself. And if you do that, then thank you very much indeed. Yeah, before we get stuck in, I just want to say I have an Etsy store these days where I have a variety of 10-minute workshop bits and pieces, from notebooks and pencils to a few other bits and bobs. Do go and check that out. There's a link down in the video description as well. Also, if you're curious about what my wife Linda, Mrs. 10 Minutes, gets up to in her spare time, well, she has an Etsy store as well. If you fancy some quality quilting, well, go and check out those items as well. There's only a few on there. They're the ones that she can bear to part with, but the link is in the video's description down below as well. It's been quite a year for various little bits and pieces, and this year's gift list is very much about practical pocket money presents. Overwhelmingly, the gifts ideas here are under £10. There's a few around the sort of 12, 15 quid, a few in the 20s, and a couple of slightly more indulgent ones, excuse me, up around 80 quid or so. But let's start with the explosion of primary colours that is scribing gadgets. I did a few videos on scribing earlier in the year, and we've got some fabulous products from a variety of people. I'm going to shout out to Steve Tomlin, my friend Steve Tomlin from SBT Design, who produced the Block Scribe, the Star Scribe, the Block Scribe Junior, and the Block Scribe Level. These are all fantastic products. Also the inset hinge jig. As far as I'm aware, nobody else is producing one of these. These are all excellent products and highly recommended. All great value, all made by one guy, one maker, right here in the UK. Along the same vein, I'm going to give a shout out to the Scribe guys. Again, two guys, a couple of kitchen fitters who came up with this idea, have put this into production and are doing a great job with them. Thoroughly recommended. I've talked about these in the scribing video before as well. Again, very much in the same vein, swanky scribing gadgets. Again, great stuff. I particularly like the Tri-Scribe, but they do a variety of others, and there are links in the video description to those as well. And also, shout out to my friend, my YouTube pal, Carl Pountney from the Strawbite Workshop. Carl's a long-term subscriber of mine and Patreon supporter, and thanks to all of my Patreon supporters. Carl makes the Strawbite waist side cutting jig. This is just a great idea for absolutely anybody with a track saw who needs to make a cut on the waist side of the line. They just make that really simple. Carl produced these, having watched me futz about with a little 2mm plastic packer, and these are such a great idea and great value as well. And again, you know, one guy working out of his shed with a 3D printer producing this. I mean, what a world that we live in when people can do that. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So do go and check those products out. And as I say, I have talked about those in much more detail in previous videos. Let's start though with the simplest things of all, that something every workshop needs. I've talked about these before. A decent pencil. Staedtler Norris pencils are designed for schools. If they can survive a 7, 8 or 9-year-old, they can survive time in your workshop. You can get a box of a dozen of these for less than £4. Again, link in the video description below. Great value. They can stand dropping without the lead smashing, and they work really well. It's all worth just mention as well. You can get 4 of my Carpenter's pencils for £3 at my Etsy store. Go and check those out too. What's next? Yeah, next up we're going to have a little bit of glue. You know, there's all kinds of adhesives out there. This is one that I've only started using recently, and it's Lumberjack PU adhesive. Very fast setting, 5-minute setting PU adhesive, polyurethane, and it comes in a cartridge tube like this, so you use it with a gun. This stuff is just extraordinary. If you're new to PU adhesives, it's an adhesive that foams up slightly, it froths slightly, so it expands to fill gaps. But this one grabs in 5 minutes, and it does an extraordinary job. It is horrible stuff to work with. You must wear gloves with it, because if you get it on your hands, it just turns your hands completely black. But this one, the Lumberjack 5-minute PU, is extraordinary. They also do a 30-minute one, which I've also used, but I used the 5-minute PU when I was putting in some big bookcases and literally just glued them to the wall, and they worked incredibly well. Cartridge of that cost about £7 and great value. Staying with Everbuild, we've got some Everbuild super glue. Those teensy little tubes of super glue drive me nuts. Super glue is great. It's useful for all kinds of things, whether it's for making jigs or minor repairs in a client's house, let's just say. Always worth having some super glue in your bag. But those little tiny tubes, which once you've opened, the cap glues itself back on, and then when you try and open it, the tube tears and you end up stuck to your hand, drives me crazy. This one, Everbuild super glue, in a decent sized tub. It's 50, I'm going to say 50 millilitres. It's 50 grams. Why would you sell that by weight? Either way, it's about £6. This is the Superglue HV, so it's at a high viscosity, so a little bit thicker. They do a GP, a general purpose one, which is a little bit runnier. Either of these, buy both of them and have one in the workshop and one in the van. This will get you out of a scrape many, many times. Great stuff. We've talked about Hultafors before. Hultafors are the guys who now make the Talmeter tape measures. I've got one of the old blue ones, the original Talmeters. Hultafors took them over and they make these tape measures. I've talked about these before. They're the ones with the little tail on, so you can do inside edges. Great stuff. But the thing made by Hultafors that I've come across recently is this little guy. This is a mini pry bar made by Hultafors. I want to give a shout out to Joe at JLT Woodworking on Instagram for pointing this out to me. These are lovely. This is tiny, about 190mm long, so about 7.5 inches, something like that. And what I like about it is that it's very, very slim at the ends. I've got little cat's paw sort of pry bars, but they're too fat at the ends to get into anywhere. This is small and slim and sort of elegant, so for any sort of fine, delicate work, this is absolutely fantastic. It costs about £5. In fact, it's so cheap on Amazon, in the link down below, it's an add-on item, so you've got to put that in your basket, and then by the time you've added enough other things into it, this will come through. Really, really, really nice, slim, elegant little tool, which is going to do sterling service. I'm going to be keeping this in my drill box instead of my little cat's paw. Next up, we've got something mostly for the workshop, but not always. These are Velcro cable ties. You know, just as it sounds, you can wrap. It's a basic Velcro length with one slotted end, which you can wrap around a cable, and then just use that to tie the cable up. They come in a variety of different lengths. I've linked to a pack of these of different colours, so different sizes, and I've particularly used them for keeping the cable wrapped around my extractor hose, and then you can take it off really easily. So it's not permanently attached. Great things, obviously completely reusable, and a pack of, I think it's 50 or 40, is about £7, so great value as well. One of those things that will keep going and get used all around the houses too, probably. Health and safety, yeah, I mentioned these before. These are Moldex in-ear defenders. I like these because they have a 27 decibel noise reduction. Again, it's not just guys who are getting older like me who need these. You can't get back what you lose. You can only look after what you've got. So always use ear defenders. What I like about these in particular is that you can get extra ends for them. Obviously, over time, these will wear out. And it's worth getting the genuine ends for these, because obviously it's the little ends, the little pods that give you that 27 dB noise reduction. So always worth getting the genuine article. These are really cheap as well, a couple of pounds a pair, depending on how many you buy. So definitely worth having a couple of pairs of these and a bag of these as spares as well. Next, we've got a palette knife. This is like not a kitchen palette knife, but like a painter's, an artist's palette knife. I've had this forever, and it's really useful either for mixing up very small quantities of filler, or particularly I've been doing a lot of sewing machine case repairs recently, don't ask, and for putting a dab of glue on the end of this and squeezing it into a tiny gap or crack in old woodwork, which you can then clamp up or tape up. It's incredibly useful for that. You can buy a pack of 5 or so of these for about £5, all stainless steel, really nicely made, very cheap. They'll last forever. I bought these forever ago, and just a really useful thing to have around in the workshop. Next up, we've got a very much a one-trick pony kind of tool. It's a set of pincers, simple set of pincers. My dad had a set of these. I'm sure my granddad did as well. My son probably has a set too, just for pulling nails out of things, particularly if you're doing renovation type work or even refurbishment work again on the old sewing machines. Lots of little panel pins to remove. These are fantastic. They can take these out. Again, they're pincers, not end cutters. They're just for removing nails. That's all they do. And they do it really well without damaging the surface of the material that the nail is attached to. Great tools. Again, £6 or £7 for a pair of these. Great value, and always worth having a pair of those in your toolbox. Talking of things to have in your toolbox, one of the things that I always have in my drill case is a little pin hammer like this. I use it mostly for tapping in wall plugs and that kind of thing, because let's be honest, there's only so many times you can whack them in with the base of your drill like this. Again, just a really simple, cheap hammer. I think the handle on this was a little bit longer, and I just cut it down to fit into the sustainer, so it goes in really neatly. Again, £6, £7, something like that. Great value and useful for all kinds of things if you need a small hammer with you when the main toolkit is down in the van still. Pop one of those in your drill case or something like that, and it'll always come in handy. And next up, we've got the Barco 6-inch or 150mm sliding square, combination square. I've talked about these before, so I'm not going to dwell on them. They're not expensive, well worth having a few of these. I have a few in here. I've got a couple in my drill case, a couple in the van. I've got a couple in my carry bag for installs. They're just generally very useful. But one of the other things I've got from Barco, and I used in the scribing video, was a Barco rasp. Now these are just a little bit of a blunt instrument, fairly crude, but they take off quite a lot of material fairly quickly, and often in spaces, in shapes that you can't easily plane, or unless you want to dig out the spokeshave. Again, kind of a one-trick pony. If you need it, you need it. Not cheap, but not expensive either. A nice soft grip handle on them, about £11, £12, something like that. And if you need it, if you're going out on installs and things, very, very useful to have in your install kit. Also, around about £12 is a roll of double-sided tape. I always get asked about double-sided tape whenever I do jigs or things like that. And one of the things I really want if I'm taping a jig together is that the thing isn't going to move, especially if it's a jig for a router or something like that, or maybe I'm templating an alcove space. You want to be able to take those away and be sure that they haven't moved. Well, this is 3M's 9088 double-sided tape. This is the closest thing to a permanent bond that you can get from a piece of tape. As long as the two surfaces to be stuck together are flat, dry and dust-free, a length of this pressed firmly together, and that will not come off without a fight. It's amazing stuff. It's not cheap at about £12 a roll for the 12mm or half-inch, but it's astonishingly good. 3M 9088 double-sided tape. Highly recommended. Next up, we're swaying towards slight indulgence here. I carry a Leatherman Skelly tool with me as a general purpose, everyday carry kind of pliers and blade. But obviously, because it's got a blade on it, you can't take that on a flight, or you have to be very careful about how you pack your bag. What I've come across, though, is a little toolkit by Small Rig. Small Rig are the people who make the camera cages that I use, and some of the other clamps and things. And it's a really, really sweet little set of hex keys, a Phillips head, a Torx, and a flat blade which is not sharp. This means it's completely carry-on approved, and it's also listed as a camera accessory. You've got a 345 2.5mm hex, a T25 Torx, and a number 1 posi, and this flat blade as well. No pliers in there, unfortunately, but if you do want a very small, very compact little toolkit to carry with you, and it doesn't matter if you keep that in a carry-on bag, then highly recommend it. About £20, so a little bit on the indulgent side, but very effective, very lightweight, and really, really nice to have. Going up in price a little bit, definitely not lightweight, but definitely nice to have. A little Stanley block plane. If you're new to the business or to the hobby, and you're looking to do a little bit of hand planing somewhere along the way, you can do a lot worse than a little Stanley block plane as a starter plane. About £26. They're not expensive. I have a low angle block plane from Quangsheng as well, which is really nice, but costs roughly 4 times the price of this. And this is a really, really good starter plane. The blade takes a really good edge, and it's just handy to have. It's got a short base, so it can be worked into Scribe things as well. It's just a very good, very useful, good entry-level block plane. I highly recommend it. My dad had one very, very similar to this years and years and years ago. I think it's long gone now, unfortunately. But the same basic style hasn't changed over the years. It's still an excellent tool and a really good starter plane if you're just starting out. All right, next we are getting into indulgence again. I like stationery. I like a nice pencil, and this is the Caran d'Ache fixer pencil. Technically a lead holder because it's a mechanical pencil. It's a clutch pencil rather than so it's gravity fed. It's machined from a single piece of aluminium. It's a delight to have and hold. They're just really nice things to have. They're designed more for sketching and that type of drawing than for drafting. The lead's 2mm thick, so it takes a point and you can use it to do shading. So it's not really a drafting kind of pencil, but it's really good. One of its party trick is that you can pop off the coloured top. When it does get blunt, you can use that to sharpen the lead and to give yourself a good point again. Really nice. As I say, a bit of an indulgence at £27 just for a pencil, but this is really good. I've got a couple of these and they are lovely things to use. Okay, bit of a jump in cost now. We're going up to about £80, and this is for a Trend Snappy complete kit. Trend Snappy is a quick change bit system, basically a little bit like the Festool Centratec, but as an add-on to a standard Jacobs type chuck. And in this particular kit, you get one of everything. This is great for people who are just starting out or who are new to the hobby. You'll end up collecting a ragtag selection of bits and pieces that you've gathered together over time. This actually keeps it all together in one place, and you get one of pretty much everything you're likely to need to start. I particularly like the self-centering drill bits. They are particularly good. It's really hard to get a nice quality set of those, and the Trend Snappy ones are really nice. You've got sockets, you've got socket holders, you've got countersinks, you've got small bits, you've got long bits, you've got masonry bits, you've got spade bits, you've got a couple of augers, and you've got some countersink bits as well. All in all, it's a really good kit. They tend to get a little bit overshadowed, Trend, by Vera at this time of year, because they put out those really nice sort of Christmas edition type toolkits. But this is great. This is a terrific all year round set of bits and pieces for about £80. Everything you need pretty much to get you started. And I've had mine for a little while and I'm very pleased that I did. And lastly, we've got one slightly left of field thing, a little bit of an indulgence. It's this. This is the musical Echo V50 Pro, little action camera. I'm going to recommend this to any of you guys who are doing little bits of video in a workshop, or maybe who just want to do little bits of video during an install, or just pictures during install, because it's an action camera. It has a very wide lens. It is the price does vary a little bit on this. At the moment it's up to about 120 quid. I paid about 100 for mine. I've seen them down as low as 80. Keep your eyes peeled if you're in the market for one of these. I'm going to do an actual video just on this camera because it's really, really good. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. I'm going to do two actually, one as a workshop camera and one as on the other channel as an action camera, because I've been using this quite a lot for all of my vloggy type stuff as well. It has good image stabilization on it. You can switch that off if you don't like the sort of fisheye look. And even the microphones are reasonably good on it. Great little camera. If you're in the market for something like this, there are so many around at this sort of price point. And this one, the Echo V50 Pro, is a really good, not quite top of the line, but almost. Shoots 4K 30p video and also does a great still image. Very, very interesting times that we live in. And on that slightly indulgent note, I think I will leave it there for this week. I hope there's something on that list that has tickled your fancy for the festive fortnight. Links, of course, down in the video description below to everything that I've talked about here today. Don't forget to check out my Etsy store. Take a look at Mrs. 10 Minutes Etsy store as well if you fancy a quilt for Christmas. Thank you, as always, to my Patreon supporters for their continued support of the channel. But that's it for this week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Not quite top of the line, but almost. Shoots 4K 30p video and also does a great still image. Very, very interesting times that we live in. That is it though for this. That's it though for this. That's it though for this year's gift ideas video. I hope there's something for you. And amongst all those things, I don't know how many there are actually. I usually aim to get about a dozen. I think there might have been a few more there this time. Thanks as always for your support on the channel. I really appreciate it. And I think I'll leave it there for this year. That's it though for this year's That's it though for this year's video. Thank you so much for watching. That's it though for this year's gift ideas video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it and hope you found something in that list that might tickle your fancy during the festive fortnight. Don't forget there are links down in the video description to everything that I've included in here. As well, don't forget to check out my Etsy store and indeed my wife's Etsy store if you fancy a quilt for Christmas. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.